Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Center, Scott M. Gray, D.C., across from the Marion Center between TSC and Kroger. For further information, dial 740-386-6580. Also located on the net at goodbackbadback.com. That's goodbackbadback.com.
Hey, Scott Spears along with you on this Wednesday edition of The Exchange, joined by Charlie Evers, Marianne Michaels, Dr. Scott Gray, Martha Douse-Manesi, John Hicks, and Shannon O'Neill. And for those of you who missed yesterday's program, John Hicks, great Ohio State legend, joined us. And I just want to run this off again if you missed it. His accolades over the years: first team All-American 72 and 73, first team All-Big Ten 72 and 73, second in the Heisman Trophy voting 1973, Outland Trophy winner 1973, Lombardi Trophy winner 1973, and Rose Bowl Hall of Fame 2009. What a great resume. John, I want to ask you here, second in Heisman Trophy voting 1973. How did that feel?
Well, it wasn't that big a deal back then like it is now. Where we were in New York, and which I thought was a bigger deal, and everybody else was. We were on the Bob Hope show.
Oh.
And with all the All-Americans, and so I was in a cab going to Gallagher's restaurant, and one of the cabbie said, "Oh, they just announced this. The running back from Penn State, John Capoletti, won a Heisman." And then, like later on that afternoon, he says, "Oh, this lineman from Ohio State," and I was in the cab, he said he finished second. And that's pretty much until, you know, they filmed the story about John and his brother's leukemia and everything. And now they got ESPN and awards and, you know.
What was it like to be on a Bob Hope special?
It was pretty cool. I mean, Bob was unbelievable, funny. We had a lot of fun with him, but he was pretty cool.
I can imagine. Bob Hope, always one of my favorite all-time people. Charlie, we have fascinating facts for this Wednesday.
Well, the school's back in session too. I often wonder, since we mowed down most of our elementary schools in Marion and substitute buses in their place, how many buses, I wonder? That'd make a good question. How many buses does it take in Marion to transport the kids, or in Marion County altogether? And what kind of mileage do all these buses get? What does it cost the taxpayer every year to run all these hundreds of buses?
There certainly are a lot of buses. Anytime you drive by one of those bus yards, there are a ton of those.
And just be careful, watch out for buses. Last year there were so many accidents involving buses. So, oh, and one other thing, you know, every year we always tell about kids going back to school, be so careful. The other day a weatherman in Columbus said, "Oh, we're going to have a beautiful day today. The sun's going to shine all day, but don't forget you'll get a sunburn if you get out in the sun."
I just saw something, no, Charlie, I just saw something on suntan lotion, and it was that you have to reapply it every 2 hours.
That'd be a good idea.
You can't, it could be, see, he was just trying to be helpful, I think. Which one was it?
It's Christmas time, and you fix your turkey, but put it in the icebox. 2 hours later, you'll die if you eat it.
Will you?
Oh, yeah.
No, you won't die 2 hours
Well,
later.
you wish you were dead.
Would you? Well, okay. Marianne, words of wisdom.
Well, joyful people live their lives finding ways to celebrate what is and not what might have bed.
That's good, Marianne. Joyful people find themselves celebrating what is, not what might have been. Oh, see, I did remember it. I'm happy with myself today, yeah. Now, we're going to head over to our special guest on a Wednesday episode, Dr. Scott Gray. Doctor, how are you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
How is the spine coming?
It's going very well. He's got most of the thoracic part, the middle back done, and he's working on painting the discs in between, so it actually looks more like a spine now a little bit. So it's looking pretty cool. We're getting lots of comments on it.
I can imagine so. Now, Doctor, for those who haven't seen the program, how did you come up with the idea to do this?
Well, I had a tree out in front of my office that had died, and I had a guy come in and ask me, how much I would pay him to cut down the tree. And so I started thinking, I remembered seeing a spine carved out of a tree before. And so I said, I want to see if I can find this guy who carves a spine out of a tree, because it would be very appropriate for our office, and let's make something cool out of something that's, has died, and let's, put something there to remember. So contacted this guy, found out about, what it would cost to do that, which, I was going to have to pay to get it taken out anyway, so I might as well pay to have something nice done with it. And there it was. Got a hold of the guy. He came out and checked it out, said, yeah, we can do this. Because he had to check and make sure it wasn't hollowed out or anything like that so that it would be sturdy. And he got to work on it, and it's almost done.
Well, and I tell you, I saw a picture of it on Facebook. I actually haven't driven by, but it's something to see.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a sight. It's just amazing what he can do with a chainsaw. It's unbelievable, because I can't even imagine looking at a tree, just a round tree, and being able to carve out of it exactly. You can't make a mistake. If he makes a mistake, just got to cut the whole thing down. So it's amazing what he can do. He's very, very talented.
There's so many bones.
Yeah, there's 24 bones in the spine that he's carving out with the discs in between and everything.
And
so
it's accurate.
It's very accurate. Yes, he actually has a model of the spine that he uses as he carves it. Looks at that and then carves out some more, looks at the spine, and does it exactly in the normal anatomy of the spine.
Seems like a bit of a racetrack in the studio today. That's okay. We'll keep going on. We'll purge ahead. Purge ahead. We've been through worse at the fairs and things. Doctor, tell me what's going on inside the office. We know what's going on outside the office. What's going on inside?
Just working more and helping people. I'm always doing research. Like I talked about last week, we talked a little bit about backpacks, and we're doing a lot of education for the kids right now on how to wear their backpacks, making sure that they don't wear them too low, not too far below the waist, that they're using padding, nice thick padded shoulders, wearing it on both sides, not just on one side. So, doing a lot of that education, making sure that kids aren't injuring their backs and causing things like scoliosis or curvatures that can be caused by those imbalances that you get from wearing backpacks incorrectly. So, doing that, and just found this new article, which is really cool, talking about, there's a magazine called Spine Magazine. It's one of those peer-reviewed medical journals, and they were just testing the effectiveness of adjusting the spine. And what they're finding now is that it's one of the best ways, a very effective treatment for people with low back pain. This one's specifically for low back pain. And they were doing intense treatments at first, about 12 visits to get people back in shape so they got out of pain. And then if they adjusted them every 2 to 3 weeks, they could get rid of their low back pain and not have it come back. So it's always good to see more and more research coming out to show the effectiveness of what we do with chiropractic, because that's always been one of our biggest criticisms, is that we haven't had the research to back up what we do. And that's one of the reasons the medical doctors, they're saying, show us the research, show us that what you do actually works. And we're starting to get some of that now, so it's exciting news, and we like to share that with people.
That sounds great. Now, John is a college athlete, pro athlete. Did you ever have any troubles in which you needed a chiropractor?
Not so much a chiropractor, but I've had back problems.
Mm-hmm. What do you think do you know what they stemmed from? Injuries or just constant wear?
Collisions.
Collisions. I can imagine. Now, do you think when you're young and during your playing days, do you think about that in the back of your head that in later life?
No.
Never do?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I'm 60 years old now. I have to struggle to get up out of bed.
A lot of athletes, former athletes, have knee problems.
Knee, neck, back, shoulders,
Ankles.
Every joint.
Yeah.
Every joint. Yeah.
Now, doctor, what could be done for a person who doesn't think about the injuries that sports might cause later in life?
What could be done to
alleviate knee pain, back pain, neck pain?
You know, just taking better care of yourself. I mean, the stuff that John and his teammates were doing, I mean, I heard Emmett Smith say one time that playing a football game is like going through 2 or 3 car accidents every week. And I mean, it's not something that you can't put your body through that much stress and not get problems from it. And of course, that's stemming into a lot of the issues now with the NFL and their healthcare policies for the players and everything because of how bad they get afterwards because they put themselves through so much trauma. Almost every NFL team now has a chiropractor. They've got physical therapists. I mean, they've got these huge medical staffs. They do everything in their power to protect these guys and get them to, you know, not experience as much pain, which, you know, can help temporarily. But with the amount of pounding that they go through and the collisions that John was talking about, it's almost impossible to prevent, you know, the serious injuries later. But little things that you do along the way, taking care of your back, making sure that when it gets out of alignment, you do get it aligned. It's going to minimize that amount of trouble. But when you're playing in the NFL, you're definitely going to have some problems later on in life.
John, when we're playing sports, did you ever regret it? Do you ever regret taking those bumps? Why is that?
Well, it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, it was fun. We got to travel, you know, meet great people, and it was fun.
Who was the greatest person you ever met?
Coach Hayes.
Well, we talked about this a little bit in yesterday's episode. Give us your favorite Woody Hayes story.
Well, we got several, you know.
Tell me a good one here for the viewers.
Tell
me a good one.
We were going to play Minnesota in 1973 in the Chicago Tribune and all the Big Ten Skywriters. There was a crew that went around all the conference and wrote about it. And they picked Minnesota to win the conference. So the coach from Minnesota goes to the Chicago O'Hare Airport to meet Woody as he got off the plane. And his coach's name was Cal Stoll, and he looked Coach Hayes right in the eye and told him we'd play in 120 days. Well, Coach Hayes stepped back and was going to punch him and told him we're going to play in 118 days. And he said, who's counting? You don't even know what day we're going to play. And he said when he came back to Columbus, he told us, and he made us all mad, we beat him 56-6.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
For all the gruffness that a lot of people assign to Woody Hayes, he really did have a heart of gold, right?
Yeah, he did. I mean, you know, he was rude, crude, and socially unacceptable, but...
Rude and crude and socially unacceptable.
Did you like him as a person?
Oh, I loved him. I miss him now. He's a good time. You know, Coach Hayes was, you know, most coaches, most good coaches, I mean, you know, they love the kids. And like Trussell loves his kids. You know, he had 36 different teams, and he loved every one of them, you know, and he wanted you to be successful. And, you know, and Coach Hayes, he came back from World War II. He was a naval commander, and, you know, fought in Okinawa, fought in Coral Sea. And he had a lot of, like Bo and my high school coach and all those guys that was on that 45 team in Miami come back from the war. And, you know, he was very close to them. And subsequently, you know, he was there for 28 years. And, you know, it was really different from the standpoint that there was 28 brothers as these teams go, you know, because of him. So, no, he was different, but you knew he knew, you knew where you stood with him all the time.
I've heard many great stories about Ann Hayes, his wife. Did you know Ann?
Mm-hmm.
Was she the center of that family?
Yeah, because he was never home. And see, he didn't care about money. So, and, you know, Woody would go out and speak, and they'd give him a check, and he would forget he had it. So her mission was to go through all his clothes, because he would never take a raise. He was the lowest paid Big Ten coach. You know, I remember my senior year, the athletic directors both the athletic director and assistant athletic director came to practice and wanted to meet with him. And the reason why they wanted to meet with him, because all the other ADs and presidents were saying that he has to take a raise because they could never hire another coach because all of them wanted more money. And Woody was the dean of the coaches, and he wouldn't take any money. So they made him take a raise.
Wow.
You know, John, one thing I've learned through the years, I talked to Woody's niece, Mrs. Hoyt. Mm-hmm. And she told me one time, and I found this endlessly fascinating and still do to this day. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Woody and Ann only had one son. Mm-hmm. And she said she always gets interviewed about Woody Hayes because his son will not do interviews about him. And she said one time she leaned over to him at a dinner party, family gathering, and she said, Steve, why don't you do interviews? You should really be the one doing these, not me. And he said he leaned over to her and said, I'm all Woodied out. Mm-hmm. What do you think that's about?
Well, it's who approaches Steve. You know, we had ESPN came and interviewed a bunch of us about Coach Hayes, and Steve wasn't going to do it. I called him up and I said, you know, we're going to tell a real good story about the coach, and we really need you to be with us. And he came with us. But as far as his being, you know, approachable by his father, they were like this. Steve didn't play football. You know, he became a lawyer because Coach Hayes he always wanted to be a lawyer. And so anybody, like Archie, he wanted Archie to be a lawyer, you know. Even the guys that became lawyers, he wanted everybody to be a lawyer. So he's pretty difficult to be around all the time. But like I said, you always knew where you stood. I mean, all your life, you know, and he loved us all.
I believe that's absolutely true. Doctor, sitting next to an Ohio State legend here, obviously you live in Ohio, down in the Columbus area. Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions for John?
Well, if I remember correctly, with your Heisman, were you the last lineman to be that close to getting a Heisman mm-hmm. trophy to come in second? Okay, that's what I thought. And one of the first to play in 3 Rose Bowls?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I thought that there were a couple things like that you had some additional records to what we were talking about yes. there. So what was your favorite Rose Bowl memory of the 3?
Well, we got beat pretty good by USC in 1972.
The first time.
73. And we were embarrassed. And we went to Coach Hayes and told him that. And we said we were going to come back. And we were going to beat him. And we did. Mm-hmm.
What do you think the difference was in those 2 games?
We got beat.
Just got beat?
Yeah, we got beat.
So when we look...
They were the national champions. We got beat.
Yeah. We look at, you know, when we saw Troy Smith going into that game against Florida, we thought that this team was just unstoppable, and they just got beat. I mean, what did you think about that game, and what do you think?
They
just weren't ready for it?
It's hard, you know, even for us. Back then, you only had one option. You either won the title or you stayed home. Mm-hmm. So if you won the title, and see, in 1972, they appealed the no repeat rule. So we were able to go in consecutive years. Before then, we couldn't. Mm-hmm. And they only had one bowl. It was a Rose Bowl, you know. So, I mean, that's pretty hard to catch. You know, you're young, and you're going to the same place, and the excitement's not there, you know. And so, you know, we only had one opportunity. You know, today these guys, there's 900 bowls.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could go there. I mean, they could play for the national title in the Fiesta Bowl, and they could play at the Orange Bowl or whatever. I mean, that's a great trip. And I think we have been to the Fiesta Bowl too many times. I mean, you know, the executive director was from Akron, Ohio, and the chief financial officer was from Cleveland, Ohio. And to truth be known, when the Ohio fans came out, they drank and ate, and everybody made a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had Utah came out and they didn't make any money. Boise State came out, they didn't make any money, so they always want us to come.
Yeah.
And our kids just wasn't ready to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who would you say right now, who's the best young guy to be watching on this OSU squad right now?
You know, you're not going to see. You're always going to see some kid be a little better than the others.
Mm-hmm.
But I like this team.
Yeah.
I like this team. I like their attitude. You know, you got Mike Brewster at the center. He's going to be a millionaire. You got Marvin Hall and Shugart, and those kids really working hard on the offensive line. You got 5 kids in the backfield. Each of them so close together. You're just waiting to see who's going to have the breakout year. And on defense, they're just playing you know, you don't really have a superstar, but they're all really great athletes.
Mary Ann, I know you want to jump in with a question.
Yeah, did you play pro ball?
Yes, I played for the New York Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right. In what years?
1974 to 1980.
Did you know George Blanda?
Yeah, I knew George Blanda. He played there.
He's the brother of my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
But he died just this past year.
Just this last year.
I wondered if you played with him. I thought
No, I
you
didn't play against him. I didn't play against him. I think he had retired.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Shannon, do you want to jump in with a question here?
Actually, this is a little off topic, but I have a question for Dr. Gray. I've
Oh,
been
go
itching
ahead.
to ask.
Go ahead.
So, my mom gets on me sometimes because I like to crack my back. Are there any really long-term side effects that go along with that?
Well, the biggest thing I tell people not to do is you'll see people with their neck and they'll take it and they'll move
I
it
never
really
do
quick.
that.
You know, if you're just stretching and your back pops a little bit, I don't really think you're doing anything bad there.
Okay.
But if you actually have someone come in and push on it, or you're
Never
taking
done.
yourself and swinging around quick,
Okay, do that one.
you can do some damage there.
Okay.
And you can move things out of place where they're not supposed to go.
Okay.
And it'll take one time of doing that for you to not want to do that again. But I have patients that do that and they'll end up coming in sometime after I just turned and it didn't work out this time. And yeah, you can knock things out of place by doing that. So stretch, you know, do your stretches if it's popping a little bit. Don't worry about that. Just don't try to force anything. That's when you get into trouble.
Okay, good to know.
That's a good question.
And the
Thank
book
you.
is goodbackbadback.com. Dr. Scott Gray, always a pleasure to have him along. Before we wrap up today, though, and we're going to have John the rest of the week, 2 more days, going to have a lot of fun. Got a lot of questions for him still to be answered. Brenda Donegan will be with us tomorrow also, and Helen Thomas via telephone. So a lot of stuff going on here. Mailbag today. I'm 30 years old and I'm moving out on my own for the first time in my life. I'm a bit scared. I don't handle money well. What can I do to handle my finances better? Ronnie in Marion. What do you think, Marianne?
I am not a good person to give advice about that because I handle my finances horribly. I mean, if it weren't for my husband, I would probably have nothing. So I can't give any advice. I'm sorry.
Doctor?
I would say the biggest thing that I've been trying to do to work with my finances is, I mean, first of all, you take with your paycheck, have a certain amount go to savings, and you know, make sure that you have something that you're taking off the table and putting aside, because over a long period of time, that's going to make a huge difference. I mean, being 30, you can get a lot of compounding on that interest if you put that aside. And also, for your spending money, just take out a certain amount of cash and use your cash for your spending money. Don't use your card, because that's when you end up in trouble and you're like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Then you overdraw the account and all that. Set up your budget to where I can spend 20 bucks a week. You take that out. When that's gone, it's gone. And it's a lot harder to spend money with cash because you feel like you're losing it. But then with a card, it's a lot easier. So use cash. I think that's a
That's a very
Great
good
advice.
I think that's very
Great
good.
advice.
Martha, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, you gotta watch everything that you have to watch. Go to the bank and put all the money in the bank that you can possibly do it and spend as least as you can do it. That's how to take care of that.
And Martha did well with Steven Dance Studios all over Ohio. John, what do you think? What's the best advice you can give financially?
Get a financial advisor.
Just let somebody else handle the money.
Well, no, I mean, you can work with them, but there is a lot of sophistication in investing, and if you're a novice, you can't take advantage. I mean, what you pay in fees, you'll gain in real principal. It's hard to really, today, I mean, with interest rates being so low, it's hard to get any real compounding, so you got to be real cognizant of what you're investing in. Plus, you don't want to lose your principal, you know, because as an investor, you're at risk.
Shannon, what do you think? Coming out of the barn here.
I have to tell you, entering my last year of college, I'm definitely seeing the need for a little more financial, what's the word?
Wisdom.
Wisdom is the good word. I'm looking for the right word there. So I think that I like what Dr. Gray said, just about maintaining that budget and sticking to it, and perhaps using cash is a great way to stick to it. Really watching on how you're spending your credit cards and maintaining that budget. Although maybe I'll end up getting a financial advisor too, just for a little extra help.
Wouldn't be bad. Let's swing down to Charlie. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I think the credit card business too should be kept to a very minimum. It's so easy to pass that plastic and charge it, but boy, the financial charges and everything else, that's a good way to get way behind and this kind of ruin your life.
It's a racket. I've seen some of those percentage rates recently, 25, 26%.
Too bad the bank doesn't give interest like that.
Yeah, on your
right.
stocks and bonds and all those kinds of things. If you have a question for the mailbag, you can join us under the Exchange Marion on Facebook or email them to irmcommunications@gmail.com. I'm going to slip back into the quizzer here. Didn't give the answer from yesterday's, but what did gangster Al Capone's oldest brother, Jim, who went by the name Richard Two Gun Hart, do for a living? He was a lawman in Nebraska serving as a town marshal and a state sheriff. John had that one right, John and Shannon, on a conference down there. Going to head into Wednesday's question. Why didn't now this is very interesting, why didn't the anti-pornography law passed by the town council of Winchester, Indiana, ever take effect? It was the anti-pornography law. Why didn't it ever take effect?
There's been so many people holding political positions that have been incarcerated for things like that. Maybe that's what happened there. Maybe they all got busted for pornography and couldn't put their bill into effect.
This is a fascinating answer. What do you think, Mary Ann?
They probably didn't meet.
No, they passed it.
Oh, they passed
They
it?
passed it.
Well, and why didn't it become law?
That's the question.
Wow, that's a conundrum. I can't answer that.
It's quite an answer. Wait till you hear the answer if nobody knows it. Dr. Gray.
I don't know, maybe someone was paid off by, I mean, that's a industry that makes a lot of money, so maybe they paid someone off to not enforce that.
Martha, what do you think?
I can't answer that.
It's a tough one. John, any ideas?
No.
None. Shannon.
Maybe all of the men gathered together to pay someone off. They all like
Now, why
conspired.
just men? It could be women too. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. We're going to have the answer tomorrow at the top of the program. Jump on Facebook, see if you can get the right answer. It's a fascinating answer. John Hicks back tomorrow. Brenda Donningham joins us, and Helen Thomas via telephone. See you tomorrow.